The greatest threat to the United States right now is a lack of confidence. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the president, I'm not talking about the government, I'm talking about the American people. Because these are some of the hardest times that Americans in this generation have ever endured. From a perspective of just covering basic costs, cost of food, cost of rent, it's never been harder. I think comparisons to the Great Depression of the 1930s are fair and justified at this point. And if the American people want to change things, they cannot wait for a savior to come along. For a long time, I think Americans were in denial about the flaws in their system, but now it's hard to deny them. Now it's hard to look at the current state of affairs and say, well, if you just pick yourself up by your bootstraps, well, if you just do X, well, if you just do Y. Because even the people who are doing those things are struggling. Even the people who are doing those things are finding it hard to put food on the table. Combine that with some pretty high-profile scandals involving elites over the last few decades, most prominent of all being the Epstein files. And I think you have a political climate that is unique, where more Americans than ever are anxious for change and united by shared suffering. If we look at the Great Depression and the New Deal that came after it, it was a very similar climate. But Americans are not going to be rescued by some savior president like FDR, who's just going to come out of nowhere. If anything, FDR and his whole administration were products of the culture that they were born out of. They came on the tail end of decades of labor politics, of strikes, of battles between workers and Pinkertons. And they were uplifted by a population of well-read, informed, and conscientious Americans who gave a shit about what was going on in their country. But the difference today isn't that we're less informed. As much as people talk about the brain rot generation, this is the digital age. We have more information at our fingertips than ever before. There really is no excuse beyond a general apathy, pessimism, and nihilism amongst the American people that prompts them to just accept this as the status quo. Yes, there are a certain portion of Americans who support this current administration and have enabled the status quo. But a large portion of those, particularly the working class ones, I think put us here because they were living like we are now for decades, and they thought he was the way out. And every day it gets more obvious that he was not.